Welcome to Gut Tales. I'm Emma, and today we are going to discuss how to identify foods that may be making your IBD worse. First, there is so much noise out there about what can possibly trigger our symptoms. Some people say emulsifiers like carrageenan. Other people say it could be nightshades. Then you hear people say, go vegan, go vegetarian, go autoimmune paleo, which basically eliminates trigger foods that can exacerbate autoimmune disease, so it says, or go paleo, go fruitarian. I mean, the list is endless, and it can be so confusing and overwhelming for IBD patients. I was so desperate for relief from symptoms that if I read a book, like The Maker's Diet or Patient Heal Thyself, or several different books, Fruitarian Diet, I literally tried it all because though sometimes it sounded too good to be true, the way these books are written, it really sucks us in where we're like, maybe nightshades could be triggering. But what happens is they say, eliminate eggs, nightshades, gluten, dairy. Like there's several eliminations at one time. And the truth is, this isn't helpful to help you figure out what may be triggering your IBD. So the one thing that you can do that may help you identify what foods are, making your IBD worse or triggering symptoms, exacerbating symptoms, making them worse is, and this isn't sexy, folks, which is why books aren't written about it, but is to keep a food journal. And I know that sounds so like it really can't be that easy. But the truth is, yes, if you keep a detailed food journal of everything you put in your mouth, food and drink, whether it be, kombucha or water or alcohol or milk or soy milk, any liquid, anything you put in your mouth, in addition to food and beverage, you may start to notice a pattern. If, you keep a detailed journal of, the times you ate the foods and then how you felt afterwards, 30 minutes afterwards, maybe 2 hours afterwards, and you keep a very detailed journal. Foods that may be triggering, your IBD, making symptoms worse, you may start to see a trend and a pattern. And, there were foods that I didn't think would be like exacerbating my symptoms. I, thought they were totally benign. And then after keeping a food journal, I was like, I never thought that would make my disease worse or make my symptoms worse. But the truth is, the only way I was able to identify that is by keeping a detailed food journal. And it's oftentimes things you don't even think of that could be exacerbating your symptoms. And the reason why, you don't hear about keep food journals is because it doesn't create a problem to then sell you a solution, which many trend diets do that, right? So I'll use the autoimmune paleo diet, for example. They suggest that, there are foods that they say you should eliminate. They say eliminate nightshades and nuts and dairy, gluten, anything you can't pronounce. If anybody ever tells you to eliminate foods that contain ingredients that you can't pronounce, they clearly do not have a solid understanding of chemistry or biochemistry. Because if you looked at the ingredient label on a banana, if they actually, provided that on just like a normal or, banana from the store or an organic banana from the store, many of those ingredients you would not be able to pronounce. But is a banana unhealthy? I mean, no. But is a banana great for everybody? No, because some of us, me included, if we consume bananas, I get super bloated. But for most people, bananas work great for them. So if I were to write a diet book for IBD and I listed all the foods that work for me, it wouldn't necessarily work for another person with IBD. So, if I wrote a book of all the foods that I, found exacerbate my symptoms, and I said, hey, if you eliminate, all these foods that, exacerbated my symptoms, and I say it will better your symptoms, that wouldn't be truthful because no two people are alike. No two people's diets are similar. No two people can tolerate the same types of foods. No two people's IBDs are the same, right? And so we really have to know what works for us as individuals. And the best way to do that is to keep a food journal. And again, diet books, again, going back to the autoimmune paleo, the theory behind it is, these foods can possibly trigger your immune system. So just eliminate them all at one time, keep them out of your diet, and then slowly reintroduce them. First of all, this diet is notorious for micronutrient deficiencies, meaning vitamins and minerals. It is overly restrictive. It doesn't really help. Like, some people may notice an improvement of symptoms and say the AIP diet cured me, but the truth is, if they would have kept a food journal, odds are they may also have been able to identify what specific foods were exacerbating their symptoms without having to go on a super strict diet that eliminates absolutely everything. And you can't pinpoint what exactly from that long list of foods that you were, quote unquote, not supposed to eat. They don't know. Was it the egg? Was it the dairy? Was it the coffee I got rid of? Like, there's no way to tell. And the studies that they have saying, oh, the autoimmune paleo diet has helped IBD patients, the truth is that's a very weak study, very small population. The control like diet wasn't even properly controlled for. And so, I think that in general, you keep a food journal. It will help identify what foods may be making your symptoms worse. And, if I wrote a book saying, here is the one thing you can do that will absolutely identify what foods are making your disease worse, and somebody opened it up and saw on the front cover, keep a food journal, odds are they probably wouldn't buy the book, right? Because I am not creating a problem. I'm not saying like, oh, well, nightshades and eggs and coffee, these are all the reasons why you're sick. We are desperate for relief from symptoms. So when we hear things like, this is why you're sick, we really grasp onto that. When in reality, we don't know what causes IBD, but by keeping a food journal, we may be able to identify what foods exacerbate our symptoms. However, these popular, autoimmune diet books, they say these foods may trigger, autoimmune disease. So if you eliminate them all, you will find health and wealth. But then you're paying them several $100s, thousands of dollars, who knows, for supplements and other things that at the end of the day, you may not need, right? It's a business for them. And so they try and create the problem to sell you the solution. Whereas if you just start a food journal, you will eventually notice a trend of what may be causing, your symptoms to exacerbate. It could be that gluten-free bread that you bought because you thought you should get rid of gluten, right? But it has other ingredients that may trigger you. So for using me as an example, I literally went on the AIP diet because I was like, I have literally tried every diet. This says it will, help my symptoms, et cetera, et cetera. I wasn't yet in the nutrition science community, so I didn't really have a firm grasp of nutrition science. Within 3 weeks, I had micronutrient deficiency. My foot hurt to walk. It felt like it was broken. I had lost way too much weight, and it wasn't sustainable nor healthy. Plus, I had eliminated foods that I can tolerate, like eggs. And, if I'm not flaring, nut milks, because on the AIP they say, oh, coconut milk, that's all you should drink. And I didn't need to do that, but I did. I put myself through that because I was desperate, right? I believed when they said, if, a label has an ingredient that you can't pronounce, don't eat it, and that's not genuine, because for us, that does more harm than good, because we are eliminating so much at one time. We are more prone to micronutrient deficiency that way. And we also won't know what is harming what's exacerbating our symptoms. And, this is where it really underscores the difference of people like thinking of mechanisms of like studies. So they'll, pull up a research study and like mechanistically it should in theory do this, but then when humans actually do it, it doesn't necessarily produce the same results, right? Because we're humans, we're not cells, we're not mice, we're humans. And, at the end of the day, you don't need to go on a super strict diet like the autoimmune paleo diet or vegan or vegetarian. Now, if you choose to be vegan because that's, what you believe in, that's fine. But don't go vegan because you think you have to get better. Instead, what you can do, instead of trying any of these fad diets, and I challenge you all, if you want to jump on the fad diet train, first, keep a food journal for at least 6 weeks. See if you can identify foods that may make your symptoms worse, that may be your trigger foods. And then once you see a pattern, don't go on a crazy diet, a fad diet, but instead take that one food out of your diet and see if your symptoms improve. That is the more sustainable, reasonable way to go about it. But again, diet culture won't tell you that. The people that are selling these books won't tell you that because they're making money off of you. And it took me years to realize this, and I don't want you to fall into the same trap that I did. So again, the one thing that you can do that may help you identify foods that may be making your symptoms worse is to keep a food journal for a minimum of at least 6 weeks. But I want to know what you all think. Please feel free to contact me. I do read my messages, and I look forward to connecting with you all soon.